"Take me to my ex's wedding," she said, and the most dangerous man in Chicago smiled like he had just been handed a loaded gun. Nora Hayes didn't walk into that mansion for love. She walked in because heartbreak had a sound, and for 3 months it had sounded like silence. The kind of silence after someone replaces you, invites you to watch, and expects you to stay small enough not to make a scene. Outside, the Waverly Estate rain slid down the black car window. Inside, Nora's hands trembled beneath a silk dress she could barely afford to imagine. Beside her sat Roman Blackwell, a mafia boss whose name made powerful men lower their voices. This story is not just about revenge, it's about the moment a woman stops begging to be chosen. Stay with me until the end, and if you're watching, like the video and comment your city. The rain outside the Waverly Estate had not started the night Nora Hayes decided to ruin the story everyone had written for her. Back then there was only cold wind, a cracked apartment window, and a cream-colored envelope lying on the floor like a dare. She noticed it the moment she stepped inside. Her apartment was small enough that nothing could hide from her for long. The living room, kitchen, and dining space all belonged to the same tired rectangle of air. A second-hand couch sat against one wall with one cushion softer than the others. A laundry basket leaned near the hallway, still full from Sunday. The kitchen sink held a mug stained with old coffee, and one plate she had rinsed but not washed. Everything looked exactly the way she had left it that morning, except for the envelope. It had been pushed under her door and left on the floorboards, thick and elegant, the kind of paper that made silence feel expensive. Nora stood there with her keys still in her hand. For a few seconds, she did not move. She knew before she bent down. Some part of her knew. The same part of her that had known Preston Caldwell was leaving before he opened his mouth 3 months ago. The body always learned the truth before the heart could bear it. She picked up the envelope. Her name was written across the front in gold ink. Nora Hayes and Guest. The words blurred at the edges. She set her bag down slowly as if any sudden movement might crack something inside her. Her coat stayed on. Her shoes stayed on. She stood in the middle of her apartment under the yellow light that hummed faintly above the kitchen and opened the envelope with a thumb she could not keep steady. The invitation slid out. Preston Caldwell and Lila Monroe request the honor of your presence at the celebration of their marriage. The room seemed to shrink. Nora read it once, then again, then a third time, because humiliation had a strange way of making a person check the details as if pain might be a clerical error. Preston was getting married at the Waverly Estate. Of course he was. The Caldwells did not do anything small. They did not host family gatherings. They staged them. They did not celebrate love. They broadcasted alliances. The Waverly Estate sat outside Chicago behind iron gates and clipped hedges, the kind of place that looked less like a home and more like a promise that people like Nora would never belong there. She stared at the date. 2 weeks away. Not 6 months. Not a year. 2 weeks. 3 months after ending their engagement, Preston was marrying someone else, and he had invited her to watch. Nora sat down on the edge of the couch, still holding the invitation. Her fingers touched the raised gold letters of his name, Preston Caldwell, a name that had once lived in her mouth like a future. She had spent 2 years with that future. 2 years learning how he took his coffee, 2 years smiling through political dinners where she barely spoke because she was afraid of saying the wrong thing. 2 years standing beside him at charity events while donors asked what she did and lost interest before she finished answering. 2 years telling herself that love did not need to be loud to be real. Then 3 months ago he had brought her to a quiet restaurant with white tablecloths and told her it was over before the waiter brought the wine. He wore the navy suit she liked. That had been the worst part. He had dressed for heartbreak like it was a business meeting. Nora, he had said, reaching across the table but not quite touching her hand. You know how much I care about you. Her stomach had gone cold right there. People only started with care when they were about to do something cruel. He had looked tired, not devastated, not ashamed, just tired as if ending their life together was an unpleasant task he wanted finished before dessert. My family is under a lot of pressure right now, he continued. My father's campaign is entering a delicate stage. There are people watching us, donors, party leadership. The Monroes have influence we need. Nora had stared at him. Preston lowered his eyes. That isn't what I meant. But it was exactly what he meant. He was already speaking from another side of a door she had not known existed. She remembered the restaurant noise around them, forks against plates, a woman laughing near the bar, ice dropping into a glass. Normal sounds, ordinary sounds, while her life quietly folded in half. So this is political, she said. It's practical. The word had stayed with her, practical. As if love were a coat he had outgrown. As if she were a car with too many miles on it. As if 2 years of her life could be placed in a box labeled unfortunate but reasonable. He said he was sorry. He said she deserved better. He said he hoped in time they could both look back with gratitude. Nora had listened without crying. She had signed for half the dinner because he forgot his wallet in the car. She had taken a cab home and sat on her bathroom floor until sunrise, still wearing the black dress she had bought because she thought he might propose all over again in some new and softer way. For weeks after, people at the law office spoke around her sadness like it was furniture. Her desk sat beside the copy machine at Dunleavy and Frost, a family law firm downtown where arguments about custody money, betrayal, and fear filled the halls every day. Nora knew how to organize other people's disasters. She knew how to find missing documents, calm shaking clients, prepare court binders, and draft timelines of marriages collapsing in slow motion. She knew everything about separation on paper. None of it helped when it happened to her. At work, everyone knew. Of course they knew. Preston's name was too public for privacy. Senator Malcolm Caldwell's son leaving his quiet paralegal fiancée to marry a congressman's daughter was the kind of gossip that moved through Chicago legal circles under the disguise of concern. "Are you holding up all right?" one associate asked while handing Nora 3 urgent filings. "Let us know if you need anything." Another said, then left a stack of discovery requests on her chair. Nobody meant harm. That almost made it worse. They treated her like something cracked but still useful. By the time Nora found the wedding invitation on her floor, she had become very good at being fine. She woke up. She worked. She answered emails. She bought groceries she did not cook. She stopped wearing the engagement ring but still felt its absence like a bruise. She avoided mirrors when she looked tired enough to tell the truth. Then Preston invited her to his wedding. And something inside her went still. Her phone buzzed against the couch. Tessa Reed. Nora looked at the name for a long moment before answering. "Tell me you're not dead," Tessa said. Nora closed her eyes. "I got the invitation." The line went quiet. Tessa was not quiet often. She was a bartender, a loyal friend, and the kind of woman who could make a grown man apologize with one stare. Silence from her had weight. "He sent it," Tessa asked. "Yes. To your apartment. Yes. With your name on it. And guest." Tessa exhaled hard. That little country club vampire. Nora almost laughed. It came out wrong, closer to a broken breath. "I thought I was done being surprised by him. You don't have to go." Nora looked down at the invitation in her lap. "No, I know. Good. Burn it. I'll come over with wine and matches. I want to go." Another silence. "Nora, I know how it sounds. It sounds like you want to walk barefoot into traffic. I want him to see me." The words left her before she could make them prettier. Tessa softened. "Oh, honey." Nora hated the pity. Not because Tessa meant it badly, but because it fit too well. "I don't mean I want him back," Nora said quickly. "I don't. I just can't stand the idea that they all think I disappeared. That I stayed home crying while he moved on like I was a bad season in his life. So don't give them the satisfaction of showing up hurt." "I wouldn't." "You would," Tessa said gently, "because you are hurt." Nora looked around her apartment, at the dead plant on the windowsill, at the unopened mail on the counter, at the half-packed box of wedding magazines she had never managed to throw away. "I'm tired of being hurt quietly." Tessa did not answer right away. When she spoke again, her voice was lower. "Who would you even take?" Nora looked toward the narrow hallway that led to her bedroom. A thought had been sitting in the back of her mind all evening. Dangerous. Absurd. The kind of thought a sensible woman would laugh off and bury. Nora was beginning to think sensible women got buried first. "I have an idea," she said. "I hate that sentence. You don't know what it is. I know your voice. I hate it already." Nora stood and walked to the bedroom. The floor creaked in the same places it always did. She knelt beside her dresser and opened the bottom drawer. Under a folded sweater was a small velvet box. She lifted it carefully. My grandmother's ring, she said. Tessa's voice sharpened. No, I haven't said anything yet. You're using your grandmother voice. That means you're about to do something tragic and sentimental. Nora opened the box. The ring sat inside on faded cream satin, a small diamond framed by 2 pearls, old-fashioned and delicate. Her grandmother had worn it for 46 years. Nora remembered being little and holding that hand in church, twisting the ring gently while her grandmother whispered for her to sit still. It's worth something, Nora said. It's worth your memories. That's different. I need leverage. For what Nora's mouth went dry. She had heard his name first in the courthouse elevator 2 years ago. Roman Blackwell. 2 attorneys had stopped talking the moment she entered, but not before she heard enough. A nightclub raid that went nowhere. A judge who recused himself without explanation. A councilman photographed entering a hotel through a private garage. The name underneath it all, never printed where it could be sued, never spoken loudly where it could be remembered. Roman Blackwell owned hotels, restaurants, security firms, a luxury club near the river, and according to men who lowered their voices when they said his name, most of the city's fear. He was not someone a woman like Nora approached, which was exactly why the Caldwells would choke on their champagne if she walked in with him. Tessa said slowly. What are you thinking? Nora closed the ring box. I need someone who makes them stop talking. No. You still don't know who. Yes, I do, because there is only one category of man who requires a family heirloom as leverage, and that category is prison. Nora sank onto the bed. Roman Blackwell. Tessa made a sound like she had dropped something. Absolutely not. He owns the Velvet Crown. He owns half of Chicago's sins. I'm not asking him to marry me. I'm asking him to attend a wedding. You are asking a suspected crime boss to pretend to be your boyfriend so your ex gets jealous. When you say it like that, it sounds childish. When I say it accurately, it sounds insane. Nora looked down at the velvet box in her palm. Maybe it was insane. Maybe that was why her hands had finally stopped shaking. For 3 months she had done everything right. She had been graceful, quiet, mature. She had swallowed every public humiliation in private because that was what women like her were praised for. Strength, people called it when they meant convenience. Preston moved on. His family moved forward. Everyone expected Nora to step aside and make the scene easier to photograph. No, not this time. I have to try, she said. Tessa's voice cracked around the edges. You don't have to prove anything to them. Nora stared at the invitation on her couch. I'm not sure this is about them anymore. That was a lie, but not completely. The next night, Chicago wore winter like a threat. Wind pushed between buildings downtown and sent trash skittering along the curb. Nora stood across the street from the Velvet Crown with her coat pulled tight around her body and her grandmother's ring in her pocket. The club did not have a sign. It did not need one. The entrance sat beneath the awning of the Blackwell Meridian Hotel, guarded by 2 men in dark suits who looked less like bouncers and more like final warnings. The doors were black glass. The people who entered did not wait in line. They arrived in sleek cars, murmured names, and disappeared inside as if swallowed by money. Nora stood under a street lamp and almost turned around 6 times. Her phone buzzed. Tessa. Are you alive? Nora typed back with stiff fingers. Yes, Tessa replied instantly. That is not enough information. Nora almost smiled. Then the door across the street opened and a woman in a silver coat stepped out, laughing, her hand tucked inside the arm of a man old enough to be her father. Warm amber light spilled briefly onto the sidewalk. Nora saw black marble inside, velvet, gold. A world that did not make room for women with student loans and thrift store heels. She crossed the street before courage could cool. The guards watched her approach. Neither moved until she reached the door. One of them looked down at her shoes, then her coat, then her face. Private entrance, he said. I need to speak with Mr. Blackwell. The man's expression did not change. No, you don't. Nora swallowed. I have something he may want. Everybody does. The other guard opened the door slightly and spoke to someone inside. A moment later, a hostess appeared. She was elegant in a way that felt sharpened. Black dress, red mouth hair, pinned so smoothly it looked sculpted. Her eyes skimmed over Nora and found every place she did not belong. Good evening, the hostess said. The club is private. I understand. Then you understand this is where the conversation ends. Nora's pulse beat hard in her throat. She had rehearsed this. On the train, in the mirror, in the elevator at work. None of the rehearsals included the way shame would crawl up her neck under a stranger's perfect stare. She reached into her pocket and took out the velvet box. The hostess glanced at it. Not interested, not yet. Please tell Mr. Blackwell, Nora said, forcing each word to land cleanly, that Nora Hayes is here to offer a trade. The hostess's eyes lifted. A trade. Yes, for what Nora thought of Preston at the altar. Vivian Caldwell smiling like she had won. Every person who expected Nora to arrive alone if she arrived at all. For one night. Something shifted in the hostess's face. Not surprise exactly. Recognition maybe of desperation dressed as nerve. She held out her hand. Nora hesitated. The hostess's smile thinned. If you want the message delivered, Miss Hayes, I need the message. Nora placed the box in her palm. The hostess opened it. For the first time, her expression changed. Not because the ring was grand. It was not. But because old things carried weight that money could not polish away. Wait here. Nora stood just inside the doors as the hostess disappeared. The velvet crown was even quieter than it looked from outside. Low music moved through the space like smoke. Men in tailored suits leaned close over drinks. Women laughed softly with eyes that missed nothing. Every surface reflected warm light and dark secrets. Nobody asked Nora to sit. Nobody offered water. Nobody needed to tell her she was being watched. She counted her breaths. At 42, she considered leaving. At 60, she imagined Tessa's voice telling her to run. At 89, a man approached from the shadows. He was tall, broad, and expressionless, with an earpiece tucked against his collar. Miss Hayes. Her spine straightened. Yes, Mr. Blackwell will see you. The hallway behind the club was darker than the lounge. The music faded with each step. Nora followed the man past unmarked doors, past cameras tucked into corners, past a mirror where she caught a glimpse of herself and barely recognized the woman walking toward a man everyone else avoided. The guard stopped at the last door. 5 minutes. He opened it. Nora stepped inside. Roman Blackwell's office overlooked the Chicago River, but the room itself seemed built to keep the city out. Black wood, smoked glass, shelves with no clutter. One painting on the wall all dark red and gray like a storm seen through blood. Roman sat behind a wide desk reading a file. He did not look up immediately. That was the first insult. Or the first test. Nora stood still and refused to fill the silence. At last he closed the file. The photographs she had seen online did not prepare her for him. They had captured the dark hair, the hard jaw, the expensive suit. They had not captured the stillness. Roman Blackwell did not simply sit in a room. He controlled the oxygen in it. His eyes moved over her once. Not like the hostess, not with dismissal, like he was measuring how much truth she could survive. He placed her ring box on the desk. You have 4 minutes. His voice was low, calm, almost bored. Nora stepped forward. My name is Nora Hayes. I know. My staff is competent. She sat in the chair across from him without being invited. His eyes narrowed slightly. Good. She needed 1 inch of ground even if she had to steal it. My ex-fiancé is getting married in 2 weeks, she said. I need you to come with me. Roman leaned back. To stop the wedding, no. To kill the groom. Her breath caught. His mouth almost curved. No, she said. To attend it. Silence. Then Roman laughed once, quietly, without warmth. You came into my club, offered a ring that belonged to someone who loved you, and asked me to play date at a wedding. Nora's cheeks burned. Yes. Why? Because they need to believe I moved on. They, the Caldwells. That caught him. Not much. A flicker behind the eyes. A predator hearing a branch snap in the dark. Which Caldwell Preston? Senator Caldwell's son. Roman looked at the ring box, then back at her. You were engaged to Preston Caldwell for 2 years. And now he is marrying Lila Monroe. Congressman Monroe's daughter, yes. Roman's fingers tapped once on the desk. The sound was soft, but Nora felt it in her ribs. Political marriage, he said. That's what he called it. What did he call you? Nora went still. The question was too precise, too cruel because it was not careless. She looked away before she could stop herself. Roman noticed. Of course he did. He said I was comfortable, she said. Reliable. Good. But not enough for the life he needed. Roman studied her. And you believed him? Nora's throat tightened. I believed he left. That was not the question. Anger saved her from tears. I didn't come here for therapy. No, you came here for theater. I came here because I am tired of being treated like an empty chair. The words hit the room harder than she expected. Roman stopped tapping. Nora drew a breath. They invited me because they think I won't come. Or because they think I will come alone and prove exactly what they believe about me. That I'm small, safe, forgettable. She leaned forward. I want to walk into that room beside someone they cannot ignore. Roman's gaze sharpened. And you chose me, yes. Do you know what people say about me? Yes. Do you believe it? I believe people like the Caldwells are afraid of you. That was not the question either. Nora held his stare. I believe you are dangerous, and still you came. My life was not exactly safe when I was loved by respectable people. For the first time, Roman was completely still. The city lights shimmered behind him. Somewhere far below, a horn sounded on the river. He reached for the ring box and opened it. His expression did not soften, but his thumb paused near the edge of the old velvet. This is not worth enough to buy what you are asking. I know. Then why bring it? Because it is the only thing I own that proves I am serious. Roman closed the box. Serious women do not walk into private clubs asking criminals for favors. I'm not asking for a favor. No, I'm offering a trade. What could you possibly have that I want? Nora did not know. That was the terrible truth. She had come armed with grief, pride, and a ring worth less to him than his cufflinks. But Roman Blackwell was watching her now, as if her answer mattered. She thought of the invitation, the gold letters, the way Preston had apologized while already belonging to someone else's future. She thought of every room where she had made herself smaller so powerful people could feel comfortable. Then she said the only thing she had left. A story. Roman's eyes changed. Nora continued before fear could stop her. You understand stories. You built one around yourself so strong that people whisper before they say your name. You made men afraid of what they think you might do. You made politicians pretend they don't know you while checking over their shoulders when you walk in. Her voice steadied. I need a story for one night. I need them to look at me and believe I didn't just survive him. I need them to believe I became someone he never had the courage to deserve. The silence after that felt different. Less empty. More dangerous. Roman stood. Nora forced herself not to move as he came around the desk. He was taller than she expected up close. Not just tall. Present. His suit fit like it had been made on his body that morning. His cologne was dark and clean, something expensive undercut with smoke. He stopped in front of her. You want revenge? Nora looked up. I want dignity. Dignity is quiet. Not mine. Not anymore. Roman held her gaze for a long moment. Then he placed the ring box in her lap. I'll go. Nora blinked. What I said, I'll go. She gripped the box. For the ring, no. Then what do you want? Roman's face gave away nothing. 2 weeks. Nora's stomach tightened. 2 weeks for what? You will stay with me. No. The word came out fast. Roman looked almost amused. No, I have a job. I have rent. I have a life. You have an apartment where you rehearse grief and a job where people mistake your silence for usefulness. Nora stood so quickly the chair scraped behind her. You don't know anything about my life. I know enough. You walked into my office wearing a coat with a missing button and the face of a woman who has apologized for breathing too loudly. The accuracy of it made her furious. I came here for one night. You came here because one night matters. That means every detail matters. Roman stepped closer. The way you walk, the way you answer questions, the way you hold a glass, the way you stand beside me without looking like you expect someone to ask you to leave. Nora hated him then, a little, because he was right. You want me to pretend, she said. No. Pretending is cheap. People like the Caldwells can smell cheap. I will teach you how to make them doubt their own memory of you. Her pulse moved strangely under her skin. And after the wedding, After the wedding you go back to your life. The answer should have comforted her. It did not. Roman turned and walked back to his desk. Those are my terms. Nora looked down at her grandmother's ring. She thought of Tessa telling her to burn the invitation. She thought of the safe choice, the mature choice, the quiet choice. Then she thought of Preston seeing her walk into that ballroom alone, offering her that soft, pitying smile, the one that said he hoped she would find happiness someday, far away from the important rooms. No. Nora closed the ring box. 2 weeks, she said. Roman glanced up. You will follow my instructions. I'm not your employee. No. If you were, this would be easier. I won't quit my job. Take leave. I can't afford that. I'll handle it. No. Roman studied her, and this time something like approval touched his mouth. There she is. Nora frowned. Who the woman angry enough to survive this? Her breath caught, but she did not look away. Roman opened a drawer, removed a black card, and wrote something on the back. He slid it across the desk. My driver is outside. He will take you home tonight. Tomorrow morning he will bring you to my residence. I haven't agreed to that. Roman looked at her. Yes, you have. Nora picked up the card. The paper felt heavier than it should have. At the door she stopped. Why are you doing this? Roman did not answer right away. He looked out at the river where the city lights broke apart on the dark water. Because Senator Caldwell has spent years pretending his hands are clean. Nora turned fully. What does that mean? It means your wedding invitation may be useful to both of us. Her stomach dipped. So I am useful, at the moment, Roman said. It should have wounded her. Instead, his honesty felt cleaner than Preston's kindness ever had. Nora opened the door. Behind her, Roman spoke again. And Miss Hayes. She paused. When you walk into that wedding with me, you do not look at the floor. You do not fold your hands like you are waiting to be judged. You do not smile because you are uncomfortable. Nora looked back. What do I do? Roman's eyes held hers. You let them wonder what they missed. The guard escorted her through the hallway and back into the velvet warmth of the club. The same strangers sat in the same booths with the same glittering drinks, but something had shifted. Or maybe Nora had. The hostess watched her leave with a different expression now. Outside, cold air struck Nora's face. A black car waited at the curb. The driver opened the back door. Nora looked down at the card in her hand. Roman Blackwell's address was written in dark ink, neat and certain. Her phone buzzed. Tessa again. Nora answered before she could lose her nerve. Well, Tessa demanded. Nora looked back at the black glass doors of the Velvet Crown. He said yes. Tessa cursed so loudly Nora had to pull the phone away from her ear. He said yes, as in yes, I'll attend, or yes, I'll drag your life into a federal investigation. Nora almost laughed. I'm not sure yet. That is not funny. I know. Nora, come home. Nora looked at the car, at the driver waiting with patient silence, at the city shining wet beneath the streetlights. I am. But even as she said it, she knew something had already changed. Home was no longer only the apartment with the cracked window and the dead plant. Home was also a question now, a threshold, a dark office above the river where a dangerous man had looked at her pain and not flinched. She got into the car. As it pulled away from the curb, Nora held her grandmother's ring box against her chest and watched the velvet crown disappear behind her. By the time the car turned toward Logan Square, she understood that she had not hired Roman Blackwell to help her lie. She had asked him to teach her how to be seen. And somewhere high above the river, Roman stood alone in his office, staring at the closed door she had walked through as if the room had become less obedient after she left. Morning arrived too clean. Nora woke before her alarm in the same apartment she had left behind the night before, but nothing in it felt settled anymore. The cracked window still breathed cold air into the bedroom. The radiator still clicked like a nervous clock. Her work shoes still waited beside the closet, scuffed at the toes, ordinary and dependable. But on her nightstand sat Roman Blackwell's card. Black ink, sharp handwriting, an address that belonged to a building overlooking Lake Michigan where people with money did not live so much as exist above consequence. Nora stared at it until her phone lit up. Tessa, please tell me you changed your mind. Nora sat up, hair falling into her face, and typed back, "I didn't." 3 dots appeared immediately. "I hate this version of you." Nora almost smiled. "You haven't met her yet." She showered, dressed, and packed 1 bag because taking 2 would feel too much like surrender. She chose simple clothes, dark jeans, a cream sweater, her black coat with the missing button. At the last second, she opened the small velvet box on her dresser and slipped her grandmother's ring into the inner pocket of her bag. Not as payment anymore, as proof that she still belonged to herself. At exactly 7, a black car pulled up outside her building. Nora saw it through the window and felt her stomach fold in on itself. The car looked wrong on her street, too polished for the cracked sidewalks, too quiet for the garbage truck groaning near the corner. A man in a dark suit stepped out and looked up at her window as if he knew she was watching. She almost called Tessa. Instead, she lifted her bag and went downstairs. The driver opened the door. Miss Hayes. His voice was polite. His face gave away nothing. Nora slid into the back seat. The ride across Chicago felt like crossing out of one life and into another. Storefronts blurred past, corner bakeries, bus stops, office workers with paper cups of coffee. People going somewhere they understood. Nora watched them and wondered when her life had become the kind of thing a person could explain only by sounding insane. "I am going to live with a mafia boss for 2 weeks so he can teach me how not to look destroyed at my ex-fiance's wedding." No court document she had ever prepared sounded that complicated. Roman's building rose near the lake, all steel and glass, with a private entrance guarded by 2 men who recognized the car before it stopped. The lobby smelled like cedar stone and money. No music played, no one chatted. Even the elevator was silent, climbing so smoothly Nora felt as if the city were dropping away beneath her. When the doors opened, the penthouse did not greet her. It judged her. Wide open space, black marble floors, pale walls, long windows facing the lake. The morning light came in cold and silver, touching furniture that looked too expensive to sit on. There were no piles of books, no shoes by the door, no coffee mug left on a table. Nothing accidental, nothing soft. Roman stood near the windows, phone in hand, wearing black trousers and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled to his forearms. He looked at her bag. That all Nora lifted her chin. "I wasn't sure if I was moving in or being held for ransom." Something flickered at the corner of his mouth. If it were ransom, I would have asked for someone richer. A woman entered from a hallway before Nora could answer. She was older, maybe late 50s, with silver hair pulled into a neat twist and a posture that made the room straighten around her. "Miss Hayes," Roman said. "This is Evelyn Rhodes. She manages the residence." Evelyn gave Nora one measured look. "Welcome." It did not sound welcoming, it sounded accurate. "Thank you," Nora said. "Your room is ready. Breakfast is in 10 minutes. Mr. Blackwell does not tolerate lateness." Nora glanced at Roman. "Does Mr. Blackwell tolerate breathing?" Roman put his phone in his pocket. "Only when useful." Evelyn's expression did not change, but Nora thought she saw a flash of approval. The guest room was larger than Nora's entire apartment. A king bed sat beneath a wall of windows. The bathroom had pale stone counters, a glass shower, and towels folded so precisely they made her feel accused. Her bag looked pitiful on the bench at the foot of the bed. She had 7 minutes before breakfast. She used 4 of them staring at herself in the mirror. She looked like herself. Tired eyes, damp hair, nervous mouth. But not exactly. There was something new beneath the fear, a thin wire of defiance. Fragile, but there. At breakfast, Roman sat at the head of a table long enough for 12 people. Coffee steamed beside him. A plate of eggs, fruit, and toast waited at the place across from him. Nora sat. Roman looked at his watch. "You're 30 seconds late. I was admiring your prison. You will find the food better. I'm not hungry. You will eat anyway." Nora picked up her fork because she wanted to argue and did not want to give him the satisfaction of hearing her stomach growl. Roman watched her take a bite. "Tell me about Preston." The eggs turned to dust in her mouth. "What about him? Everything." "No." Roman leaned back. "That was not a suggestion. I am not a case file. No. Case files are usually more organized." Nora set her fork down. "You want to teach me how to walk into a wedding? Fine. But I am not spending breakfast describing my heartbreak like evidence." Roman's gaze stayed on her, then described the man. Nora looked toward the lake. The water beyond the glass was gray and restless. He is charming when people are watching, careful when they are not. He makes decisions slowly enough that they feel thoughtful even when they are selfish. He likes being admired for kindness more than he likes being kind. Roman nodded once. Good. Good. That is the first useful thing you have said. Nora's eyes cut back to him. I thought you wanted emotional details. I want truth. Emotion comes with it if the person is not lying to herself. Her jaw tightened. He did love me. Roman did not answer. Nora hated that more than if he had disagreed. He did, she said again. Perhaps. Don't do that. Do what look like you know something about my life because you've decided everyone is weak and predictable. Roman's expression cooled. I know men who choose power over love often call it sacrifice so they can sleep at night. Nora's anger rose fast enough to warm her face. And what do men like you call it? Roman's eyes held hers. Business. The word should have ended the conversation. Instead, it exposed the shape of him. No apology, no disguise, just a blade laid flat on the table. Nora looked away first. Roman noticed. Of course he did. After breakfast, he brought her to the living room and stood near the fireplace with his arms folded. Walk to the windows. Nora stared at him. That's it, walk. She did. Halfway across the room, Roman said, stop. Nora stopped. You lead with apology. I lead with feet. Your shoulders are rounded. Your steps are small. You glance down before you move as if asking permission from the floor. Nora turned. I don't walk like that. You do. I have walked for 29 years. And apparently no one corrected you. She crossed her arms. I am not a horse at auction. No, Roman said. A horse would have better posture. She wanted to throw something at him. Instead, she walked again. Stop. Nora turned sharply. What now? You are angry. Use it. Do not let it make you sloppy. He moved closer, stopping behind her without touching. Shoulders back, chin level. Breathe from here. His hand hovered near her ribs, not landing. The restraint was somehow more intimate than the contact. Nora adjusted her posture. It felt unnatural, exposed, as if straightening her spine made every part of her easier to see. Roman stepped away. Again. So she walked. Again and again, across black marble, past the white sofa, toward the lake, back toward Roman. The first hour burned in her calves. The second burned in her pride. By the third, she stopped thinking about each step and started feeling the room change around her. Not much. Not enough to be called confidence, but the floor no longer seemed like something she had to apologize to. Roman watched without praise. That made her want it more. When he finally said, better, Nora felt the word strike deeper than it should have. They moved from walking to standing. That was worse. Roman made her stand in the center of the living room while he circled her like a thought he did not trust. Hands. Nora looked down. They were clasped in front of her. What about them? You look like you are waiting for a verdict. She dropped them at her sides. Now I look like I don't know what to do with my hands. You don't. That is why we are here. He placed a crystal glass in her right hand. Hold it. She did. Not like it contains poison. Does it not today? He showed her how to rest her fingers, how to keep her wrist relaxed, how to hold a glass without turning it into a shield. Then came eye contact. Roman sat across from her in a low chair and said, Look at me. Nora did. For 3 seconds. Then her gaze slipped. Again. She tried again. This time she lasted 5. Again. By the 7th try, her heartbeat was loud enough to make the room feel smaller. This is ridiculous, she said. No. This is where people like Vivian Caldwell win before they speak. Nora swallowed. She is not that powerful. Then why does thinking about her make your mouth go dry? Nora said nothing. Roman leaned forward. People like her do not need to raise a voice. They look at you as if you are already beneath them and you finish the work by lowering yourself. Nora's fingers tightened around the glass. She was always kind to me. Roman's expression did not change. Was she? The question opened a door Nora had spent years keeping shut. Vivian Caldwell handing her a dress for a fundraiser and saying, This color will help you look less tired. Vivian touching Nora's arm at dinner and saying Preston has always liked simple girls. It keeps him grounded. Vivian smiling when Nora mentioned work and replying, "How sweet. I imagine that keeps you busy. Kindness with teeth." Nora looked at Roman. This time she did not look away. He saw it. "There," he said quietly. The day became a series of corrections. Walk slower, answer cleaner, do not laugh when nothing is funny. Do not explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. By sunset, Nora's body ached. Her mind felt peeled open. Evelyn brought dinner to a smaller table near the windows, and Nora lowered herself into the chair like an old woman. Roman poured water into her glass. She watched him. "You enjoy control." "Yes. At least you admit it." "Lying wastes time. Is that why people are afraid of you?" "No," he said. "People are afraid of me because I do not bluff." Nora studied him in the fading light. Preston bluffed all the time. Roman cut into his steak. "And you called it hope." The words landed too close. Nora pushed her plate away. "You know, for someone helping me look less wounded, you do enjoy pressing bruises." Roman looked up. "If a bruise still hurts, it is useful. It tells us where the injury is. And what do you do with your injuries? Make sure no one can reach them twice." The answer came too fast, too practiced. For a moment, Nora saw something beneath the polished surface. Not softness, something older, harder because it had once been soft. Then his phone buzzed. The mask returned. He read the message and stood. "We continue at 6 tomorrow." Nora gave a tired laugh. "I may be dead by then be punctual in death." The next days blurred into discipline. Roman trained her in the mornings until her muscles learned what her mind resisted. Evelyn corrected her table manners with the patience of a royal executioner. A tailor arrived with measuring tape and silent judgment. Boxes of clothes appeared in the guest suite, all elegant, all simple, all more expensive than anything Nora owned. She refused half of them. Roman did not argue. He only said pride is not the same as dignity. Nora held up a silk blouse. "And this is dignity, no, that is fabric. Dignity is how you wear it." She hated how often he made sense. On the 4th day, conversation training began. Roman stood near the bar with a glass of water and transformed into Vivian Caldwell so completely Nora forgot to breathe. His posture softened. His smile warmed. His voice became gentle enough to hide a knife. "Nora, darling, how brave of you to come. I always admired your ability to endure difficult rooms." The sound of Vivian's cruelty in Roman's mouth made Nora's stomach drop. She answered too quickly. "I'm fine." Roman dropped the act. "Dead. What you died in the first sentence, that is dramatic. You defended yourself before anyone accused you." He returned to the role. "Nora, darling, how brave of you to come." Nora inhaled, then smiled. "Vivian, I always admired your ability to make concern sound so decorative." Roman went still. Then his real smile appeared. Small, sharp, dangerous, better. They practiced Preston next. That was harder. Roman did not mimic Preston's voice. He did something worse. He captured the gentle condescension, the careful eyes, the soft regret that made every insult sound like worry. "Nora," Roman said as Preston, "I just want to make sure you are not doing this because you are hurt." Nora's throat tightened. Roman waited. She looked at him and saw the restaurant again. The navy suit, the untouched wine. The practical decision. "I am hurt," she said. Roman's eyes narrowed. Nora continued, "But my pain is not proof that you still know what is best for me." Silence. Roman stepped out of the role. "That one," he said. "Remember that." By the end of the first week, Nora could enter a room without shrinking. Not always, not perfectly, but often enough that she began to feel the difference in her own skin. She noticed how people in Roman's building moved around her now. The guards nodded. Evelyn stopped correcting her posture. The tailor asked her opinion before making adjustments. One afternoon, Roman took her to the ballroom of one of his hotels after closing. The room was empty except for them. Gold light, polished floors, tall windows dark with evening. Nora stood near the center and looked around. "Why are we here?" Roman removed his jacket and laid it over a chair. "You need to learn how to dance without looking like you expect to be abandoned mid-song." "I do not look like that. You look like that when you are standing still." She rolled her eyes, but her pulse changed when he stepped toward her. He offered his hand. Nora placed hers in it. His palm was warm, firm, controlled. His other hand settled at her waist. Not possessive, not gentle, somewhere between instruction and danger. Nora forgot the first step. Roman looked down at her. If you plan to faint, do it away from the marble. I'm not fainting, then move. They moved. Badly at first. Nora stepped on his shoe twice. Roman said nothing the first time. The second time he said, "That shoe costs more than your rent, then it can afford the pain." His laugh surprised both of them. It was brief, low, and real. Nora looked up. Roman's face changed as if he regretted giving her that sound. The music playing through the empty ballroom was slow something with strings and piano. Nora followed his lead. Her body began to trust the rhythm. The room grew quieter. The space between them became too aware of itself. "Why do you hate the Caldwells?" she asked. Roman's hand tightened at her waist barely. "Careful. You brought it up first. I said they were useful. No. You said Senator Caldwell pretends his hands are clean." Roman led her through a turn. For a moment, Nora faced the empty room. Then she turned back into him. "My brother trusted the wrong men," Roman said. Nora did not speak. Roman's eyes stayed past her shoulder. Caldwell was one of them. He built a public career condemning organized crime while taking private favors from people worse than me. When pressure came, he needed a body to throw to the wolves. My brother was convenient. What happened to him? Roman's jaw shifted. Prison first. A blade 6 months later. The music seemed to thin. Nora's hand stilled on his shoulder. "I'm sorry." Roman looked at her then. "Do not be. You did not kill him. No. But someone taught you to make grief look like control." The words escaped before she could soften them. Roman stopped dancing. For one breath, Nora thought she had gone too far. Then he released her hand. "Again," he said. But his voice had changed. That night, Nora called Tessa from the guest suite. Tessa answered on the first ring. "Say pineapple if you need extraction." Nora laughed softly. "I'm fine. You sound tired." "I am tired." "Is he awful?" Nora looked toward the door beyond which Roman's silent penthouse stretched like a secret. "Yes, Nora." "And no," Tessa groaned. "That is exactly the tone women use before they make catastrophic romantic decisions. It's not romantic. Does he look at you like he wants to ruin your life?" Nora thought of the empty ballroom, Roman's hand at her waist, his laugh. His brother. He looks at everyone like that. Not an answer. Nora sat on the edge of the bed. He sees too much. Tessa was quiet for the moment. "Just make sure he sees you, not what he can turn you into." After the call, Nora could not sleep. She walked out to the kitchen for water and found Roman on the balcony alone in the cold. No jacket, no phone. Just his hands on the railing and the city below him. She should have gone back. Instead, she stepped outside. The wind lifted her hair. Roman did not turn. "You should be asleep. You say that like sleep is a command." "Most things are." Nora stood beside him, leaving space between them. "Do you ever get tired of being obeyed?" He looked at the lake. Obedience keeps people alive. Does it keep them close? That made him turn. His eyes were unreadable in the dark. "You ask dangerous questions. You invited a paralegal into your home. We're trained to ask questions. You were trained to organize divorce files, and you were trained to terrify rooms. Yet here we are." For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Roman said, "Preston wanted you small because small things do not threaten weak men." Nora's throat tightened. "And you? I have never wanted small things." The air between them changed. Nora felt it move through her body, slow and bright and terrifying. Roman's gaze dropped to her mouth. Only for a second. Then he stepped back. "Go to bed, Nora." Her name in his voice felt like a hand against her skin. She went. By the second week, the dress arrived. Emerald silk, not loud, not sweet, not innocent. It fit her like someone had studied every place she used to hide and decided to honor it instead. Nora stood before the mirror in the guest suite while the tailor adjusted the hem. Her hair was pinned loosely. Her face was bare. Still, she barely recognized herself. Roman appeared in the doorway. The tailor stepped away. Nora met Roman's eyes in the mirror. Well, Roman did not answer immediately. His gaze traveled from her shoulders to her waist to the way she stood without folding inward. "You look like a problem." Nora turned. For whom? For anyone who thought you were finished. The words entered her softly. She looked back at the mirror. For the first time, she did not search for what Preston had rejected. She searched for what she had missed. Roman came closer and fastened a delicate gold chain around her neck. At the center hung a small green stone that matched the dress. Nora touched it. I didn't agree to jewelry. It is not a gift. What is it, armor? His fingers brushed the back of her neck as he released the clasp. Nora's breath caught. Roman noticed. The room became too still. What happens after Saturday? She asked. Roman's hands lowered. You go home. The answer was the same as before. This time it hurt more. And you, I return to work. Just like that, his face closed. That was the arrangement. Nora nodded, but her reflection blurred for a second. Right. Roman stepped away. Nora, she looked at him. His expression softened so briefly she might have imagined it. When you walk into that wedding, do not perform confidence. What should I do? Remember it. She wanted to ask him to say something else, something honest, something that did not sound like an ending before the night had even come. But Roman Blackwell was already walking away. Saturday arrived gray and cold. Rain pressed against the windows in fine silver lines. Nora woke before dawn and lay still, listening to the city breathe beneath the penthouse. Evelyn brought coffee at 8 and said nothing about the wedding. That kindness from Evelyn felt almost intimate. By noon, the suite filled with quiet professionals. Hair, makeup, final dress adjustments. Nora let them work around her like she was something being prepared for display. But inside her thoughts were sharp and moving. Preston would be there. Vivian would smile, guests would whisper, Roman would stand beside her, and then it would end. At 3, Nora stepped into the main room. Roman waited near the elevator in a charcoal suit, dark shirt, no tie. He looked less like a wedding guest than a beautiful warning. His eyes found her. For once, he said nothing. Nora crossed the room slowly, shoulders back, chin level, each step landing with the weight he had taught her to claim. When she reached him, Roman offered his arm. Her hand trembled before it touched him. He felt it. Fear is allowed, he said quietly. Surrender is not. The elevator doors opened. Nora looked once toward the windows, toward the lake, toward the city that had watched her disappear and had not cared. Then she stepped into the elevator beside Roman Blackwell. Downstairs, the black car waited in the rain, and this time when the driver opened the door, Nora did not hesitate. The car moved through Chicago with the quiet confidence of something that belonged to Roman Blackwell. Nora sat beside him in the back seat, watching the city slide past the rain-streaked glass. Downtown towers gave way to quieter streets, then to wide roads lined with old trees and houses set far back behind iron gates. The farther they drove from the noise of the city, the louder her heartbeat became. Roman had taken a call the moment they pulled away from the curb. He spoke in a low voice, one hand resting on his knee, his gaze fixed out the window. Nora could not understand the language, but she understood control. Every word was clipped, every pause was measured. Even his anger wore a suit. She looked down at her hands. They were folded in her lap, waiting for judgment. She separated them at once. Roman ended the call and glanced at her. You caught it yourself. Nora looked over. What, your hands? She let out a breath that almost became a laugh. I suppose I should thank you for making me paranoid about my own body. Not paranoid. Aware. There is a difference. Yes, paranoia makes you smaller. Awareness keeps you alive. The words settled between them, darker than the weather. Outside, the rain thinned to a silver mist. The road curved past a line of bare trees, and then the Waverly estate appeared beyond them. Nora had seen photographs online. They had not prepared her. The mansion rose from the gray afternoon like something built to outlast guilt. Limestone walls, tall windows, a wide staircase leading to double doors framed by white roses. The lawn was impossibly green for November, trimmed into obedience. Valets moved quickly beneath black umbrellas. Guests climbed the steps in silk wool diamonds and practiced smiles. Nora's stomach tightened. There it is, she whispered. Roman looked at the estate without interest. Pretty cage. She turned to him. You always say comforting things right before disaster. No, sometimes I stay silent. The car slowed behind a line of expensive vehicles. Nora recognized the world before she recognized the faces. Polished people, quiet money, men with campaign smiles, women who could insult you while touching your arm like a friend. Her throat went dry. Roman saw it. Nora. She kept looking at the mansion. If I open that door, every person out there will know I came. Yes, they will stare. Yes, they will whisper, let them. She turned to him then, and for one moment all the training, all the silk, all the posture dissolved under the simple human terror of being seen by people who had already decided what she was worth. What if I can't do it? Roman's face changed. Not much. Not enough for anyone else to notice. But she noticed now. She had spent 2 weeks learning the small movements of his restraint. He reached across the seat and took her hand. His palm was warm. You already did the hard part. Nora swallowed. What was that you stopped believing that surviving quietly was the same as living? Her fingers tightened around his. The car stopped. A valet opened Roman's door first. Cold air rushed in. Roman stepped out, buttoned his suit jacket, and turned back to offer his hand. Nora looked at it, then at the mansion, then at the guests who were already looking. She placed her hand in his. The first whisper came before her shoe touched the ground. The second followed when Roman helped her from the car. By the time Nora stood beside him, the conversations near the steps had gone thin and uneven. A woman in pale blue stopped with a champagne glass halfway to her lips. A man Nora recognized from one of Senator Caldwell's fundraisers stared openly at Roman, then looked away too fast. Roman offered his arm. Nora took it. The emerald silk moved around her legs as they walked. Every step felt louder than it should have. Her instinct begged her to lower her gaze, but she kept her eyes forward, shoulders back, chin level. Do not ask the floor for permission. At the top of the stairs, an older woman turned and froze. Vivian Caldwell. Nora had imagined this moment for days. In some versions, Vivian looked shocked. In others, furious. In reality, she looked exactly as she always did. Beautiful, composed, unbothered by anything that did not threaten her. But her eyes gave her away. They moved from Nora's dress to Roman's face, then back to Nora with the smallest crack in her smile. Nora Vivian said, her voice soft enough to pass as affection. What a lovely surprise. Nora smiled. Vivian, you look beautiful. It was true. Vivian always looked beautiful. That had never been the problem. Vivian came closer and kissed the air beside Nora's cheek. We weren't certain you would attend. Nora felt Roman beside her, silent and steady. I was invited, of course. Vivian's gaze slid toward Roman. And you brought a guest. Roman extended his hand. Roman Blackwell. Vivian did not take it right away. Nora watched the name land. The pause lasted 1 second too long. Then Vivian placed her hand in his. Mr. Blackwell, I believe I know your name. Roman's smile was faint. Most people believe that. Vivian withdrew her hand. And how do you and Nora know each other? Nora felt the old urge to explain everything, to soften the lie, to make it comfortable for everyone else. Instead, she let the silence stretch just long enough to become hers. We met through mutual acquaintances, she said. Chicago is smaller than people think. Roman looked at her with quiet approval. Vivian noticed that too. How fortunate, Vivian said. Preston will be pleased you came. Nora's smile did not move. I hope today is everything he deserves. For the first time in all the years Nora had known her, Vivian Caldwell had no immediate answer. Roman's hand settled lightly at Nora's back. They moved past her into the estate. Inside the mansion smelled of roses, candle wax, and expensive perfume. A string quartet played somewhere beyond the entrance hall. Guests drifted in clusters, speaking in low voices that shifted when Nora and Roman passed. The estate had been transformed into a wedding dream, all white flowers and gold light. But beneath it, Nora could feel the machinery. Donors, cameras, alliances, every smile had an audience. She saw faces from her old life with Preston. A judge's wife who once asked if Nora planned to keep working after marriage. A campaign advisor who never remembered her name. A cousin of Preston's who had once called her sweet in the same tone people used for simple desserts. They saw her now. Not all kindly, but they saw her. Roman leaned close. Breathe. I am breathing. Barely. Nora inhaled slowly. Better no. but prettier. She almost laughed, and the sound loosened something in her chest. They entered the ceremony room through tall double doors. Rows of white chairs faced a floral arch near the windows where rain shimmered against the glass like a curtain. The aisle was lined with candles, each flame steady despite the draft. Music floated over the room, elegant and hollow. Roman guided her to seats near the back, not hidden, not exposed. Nora glanced at him. Strategic always. They sat. For a few minutes, Nora let the room come into focus. The front rows were filled with the Caldwells on one side and the Monroes on the other. Senator Malcolm Caldwell sat straight-backed beside Vivian, his silver hair perfect, his expression arranged for photographs. Congressman Monroe sat across the aisle, laughing quietly with a man Nora recognized from a news panel. This was not a wedding. It was a treaty with flowers. Then Preston appeared. Nora felt her body remember him before her heart decided what to do. He stood near the altar in a black tuxedo, tall and clean-shaven. His blonde hair combed back his face, turned toward the aisle with that careful smile she had once mistaken for gentleness. He looked exactly as he had in every version of her memory, and somehow smaller, not physically, just less mythic. A man, not an ending. Roman's fingers brushed hers where their hands rested between them. Not holding, not yet, just reminding. Nora kept her breathing even. The music changed. The bridesmaids entered in pale lavender. Then the guests rose. Lila Monroe appeared at the doorway on her father's arm. The room gave the expected soft sigh. Nora watched her carefully. Lila was beautiful in the polished way of women raised under cameras. Smooth dark hair, perfect posture, a lace gown that looked delicate and expensive and heavy with expectation. Her smile did not shake, but her fingers gripped her bouquet too tightly. As Lila passed Nora's row, her eyes flicked briefly toward her. There was no triumph there, only recognition. Nora felt it like a quiet hand on glass. Maybe Lila was not the woman who stole her future. Maybe she was another woman being arranged inside one. At the altar, Preston took Lila's hand. He smiled at her, and the room believed it, because rooms like this were built to believe beautiful lies. The ceremony began. Words about devotion, partnership, honor, choosing each other every day. Nora listened with strange calm. There had been a time when those words would have opened her like a wound. She had imagined them with Preston. She had imagined standing beneath flowers, hearing him promise forever in front of people who finally had to acknowledge she mattered. Now, as the officiant spoke, she looked at Preston and found no ache sharp enough to fear. Only memory. Only the ghost of a woman who had wanted so badly to be chosen that she forgot to ask whether the chooser was worthy. When the officiant asked if anyone objected, a ripple of nervous amusement passed through the room. Nora stayed still. Roman's eyes moved to her. She did not look back. She had nothing to object to. Preston Caldwell was exactly where he belonged. 20 minutes later, he kissed his bride. Applause filled the room. Preston and Lila turned to walk back down the aisle. As they passed Nora's row, Preston saw her, really saw her. His eyes caught on the emerald dress first, then Roman, then Nora's face. The smile he wore for the room faltered, only slightly. But Nora had spent 2 years studying him across dinner tables and campaign events. She knew his cracks. Surprise, discomfort, possession wounded too late. Roman's hand closed around hers. Nora did not need it. She let him hold it anyway. Preston moved past. The applause continued. Nora exhaled. Roman leaned near her ear. There. What he expected you to look broken. Nora watched Preston disappear through the doors with his new wife. I expected that too. The reception was held in the grand ballroom. If the ceremony had been elegant, the reception was designed to conquer. Crystal chandeliers hung above long tables dressed in white and gold. Tall arrangements of roses rose from the center of each table like monuments. Waiters moved with trays of champagne. At the far end, a band played soft jazz beneath a balcony lined with candles. Nora entered on Roman's arm and felt the room shift again. This time she did not flinch. Whispers followed, but they no longer sounded like knives. More like weather. Unpleasant, maybe, but survivable. Their table sat near the edge of the dance floor, visible but not central. A judge, a donor, and two strangers with political smiles were already seated. They introduced themselves to Roman first, of course. Roman gave them nothing they could use. When the judge's wife turned to Nora, her smile was bright and hungry. Nora Hayes. I remember you. You were with Preston at the education gala last spring. I was, and now here you are. Her eyes moved toward Roman. Life does surprise us. Nora lifted her glass. Only when we stop rehearsing the same disappointment. Roman looked down into his wine to hide a smile. Dinner came in courses Nora barely tasted. Soup, fish, salad arranged like sculpture, beef so tender it required no effort. The conversations around them skimmed over harmless topics, but every few minutes someone asked a question with a hook hidden inside it. How long have you two known each other? Long enough, Roman said. What business are you in, Mr. Blackwell? Several. Nora, are you still with that little law firm downtown? Nora smiled. For now I have been reconsidering what kind of work deserves my time. The woman blinked. Nora took a sip of water and said nothing else. Silence did more than explanation ever had. After the speeches, Vivian Caldwell approached their table. Nora saw her coming and set her napkin down. Roman did not move, but she felt his attention sharpen. Vivian stopped beside Nora's chair. May I borrow you for a moment? Dear Roman looked at Nora. Not a command. A question. Nora stood. Of course. Vivian led her toward the champagne table near the far wall where the music was loud enough to blur their conversation, but not loud enough to erase it. For a moment, Vivian only adjusted the bracelet on her wrist. Then she smiled. You look very well tonight. Thank you. Different. I am. Vivian's eyes narrowed gently. I hope this is not too difficult for you. Seeing Preston move forward. There it was. Soft blade, polished handle. Nora let it come close and pass by. It was kind of him to invite me. Vivian tilted her head. Kind, it gave me a chance to see clearly. Vivian's smile thinned, and Mr. Blackwell helped with that clarity. Nora looked across the ballroom. Roman sat at their table, one hand around his glass, his gaze fixed on her. Not rescuing, watching, trusting her to stand. Nora turned back to Vivian. Roman does not make things unclear. I would be careful with men like him. Would you powerful men often have reasons for what they do? I know. I was engaged to one. Vivian's face cooled. Preston cared for you, I know. You were good for him. No, Nora said softly. I was convenient for him. Vivian's eyes hardened beneath the pearls and powder. That is an unfair thing to say on his wedding day. Then it is fortunate I am only saying it to you. For a second, Vivian looked at her as if seeing a stranger. Nora felt no victory, not yet, just steadiness. Vivian leaned closer. Do not mistake attention for respect, Nora. Men like Roman Blackwell do not stand beside women like you unless there is something in it for them. Nora smiled then. Not sweetly, not cruelly, simply. You may be right, but at least he has never called selfishness practical. Vivian's mouth parted. Nora placed her untouched champagne flute on the table beside them. Excuse me. She walked back to Roman without rushing. Each step felt clean. When she reached the table, Roman stood to pull out her chair. What did she say? Nora sat. Nothing new. What did you say? Nora looked up at him. Enough. Roman's expression held something like pride, and it warmed her more than it should have. The first dance began soon after. Preston and Lila moved to the center of the ballroom as the lights dimmed. The band shifted into something slow and classic. Cameras lifted. Guests smiled. The couple began to dance. They looked perfect. Too perfect. Lila followed every step with precision. Preston smiled at the right moments. His hand rested at her waist with the careful ease of a man aware of being observed. Nora watched them and wondered whether either of them felt the weight of all those eyes or whether they had been raised beneath them so long that attention felt like air. When the dance ended, applause rose. Then couples began to join. Roman stood. Nora looked at his hand. No, yes, we practiced in an empty ballroom. This one has better lighting. Roman. He leaned down slightly. If you refuse me, they will wonder why. If I accept, they will watch. Let them. She hated that those two words still worked. She placed her hand in his. He led her onto the floor. The moment his hand settled at her waist, the world narrowed. The music softened around them. the chandeliers blurred into gold. Nora felt the warmth of him through the thin silk of her dress and tried to remember that this was performance. Roman guided her into the rhythm. She followed. No missed steps, no panic, no apology. "You're quiet," he said. "I'm concentrating, you're hiding." Her eyes lifted to his. "I thought you liked silence. I like useful silence." Nora looked past his shoulder. Preston danced with Lila several feet away. His eyes were not on his bride. They were on Nora. Once that would have broken her open. Now it simply seemed rude. Roman followed her gaze. "He is watching you. I know." How does it feel? Nora thought carefully. She searched for the old pain and found only a faint bruise. "It feels like seeing a house I almost bought before learning the foundation was rotten." Roman's mouth curved. "That is specific. I work in family law. We specialize in structural damage." His laugh was quiet, but she felt it through his hand at her back. Preston looked away first. Nora looked up at Roman. "That was nice. What not caring?" Roman's expression shifted. "You care, not the way I thought I would." His hand tightened slightly at her waist. Good. The song changed, but Roman did not release her. Neither did Nora. For one dangerous minute, the wedding disappeared. There was no Preston, no Vivian, no guests counting their closeness. Only Roman's hand at her back, her fingers resting against his shoulder, and the impossible thought that maybe the lie had become real somewhere between the first step and the last. Nora broke first. "I need air." Roman let her go at once. "Do you want me with you?" The question surprised her. He could have followed, ordered, decided. Instead he asked. Nora shook her head. "Just a minute." She slipped through the terrace doors and into the cold evening. The rain had stopped. The gardens were wet and shining, lit by lanterns strung between bare branches. Beyond the stone railing, the lawn rolled into darkness. Music drifted through the glass behind her, muffled now distant enough to feel like someone else's life. Nora leaned against the railing and closed her eyes. She had done it. She had walked in. She had faced them. She had watched Preston marry someone else and remained standing. The door opened behind her. She knew before he spoke that it was not Roman. Nora. Preston's voice moved through her like a memory trying to become a wound again. She turned. He stood a few feet away in his tuxedo hair, perfect bow tie loosened just enough to suggest charm without disorder. For one ridiculous second, she remembered him standing in her kitchen barefoot eating cereal from a mug because she had forgotten to wash bowls. Then the memory passed. Preston. He looked at her as if he had expected tears and found a locked door instead. "I wasn't sure you would come. You invited me." "I know. I just thought it might be too painful." "For whom?" He blinked. She let the question stand. Preston stepped closer. "You look different, so I've heard. I mean it. I know." His gaze moved over her face, searching. Then toward the ballroom. "Blackwell is not someone you should be involved with." Nora almost smiled. "There it is. What the concern?" His jaw tightened. "I am concerned. On your wedding day. That should tell you something." "It does, Nora. You don't know him." "And you do? I know enough." She turned slightly, facing him fully now. "You knew me for 2 years and still decided I was small enough to invite here as a decoration for your guilt. That is not fair. No, it is accurate." Preston's face flushed. "I didn't want to hurt you, but you were willing to." His voice lowered. "My family had obligations. You chose them. I chose reality." Nora nodded slowly. "There was a time I would have admired how cleanly you made that sound." "Nora, no, let me finish." He closed his mouth. She stepped away from the railing. "You told me I was comfortable, reliable, good. You said those things like they were compliments, but they were condolences. You made me feel like I was the chair in the corner of your life, useful, quiet, easy to move when a better piece arrived." Preston looked away. She had never seen him do that before. "You were not easy to leave," he said. "But you left." "Yes. And then you invited me here. I wanted peace between us. No, Preston, you wanted proof that I was still the kind of woman who would protect your comfort at the expense of my own dignity?" His expression hardened. "You came here with Roman Blackwell to prove a point." "Yes." The honesty struck him. Nora felt it strike her, too. "At first," she said. "But standing here now, I realize the point was never you." Preston's eyes narrowed. Do you think he loves you? The question entered the cold air between them. Nora did not answer fast enough. Preston saw that. His voice softened in the old way. Nor you are hurt, he is dangerous. Men like that know how to make women feel chosen. The nickname fell at her feet, dead on arrival. Do not call me that. He reached for her arm. Nora, listen to me. His fingers touched her skin. Then Roman's voice cut through the terrace. Remove your hand. Preston released her as if burned. Roman stood near the door's expression, calm, eyes lethal. The music continued behind him, soft and absurd. Preston tried to recover. We were talking. You were finished. This is a private conversation. Roman walked closer. Not after you touched her. Preston straightened. This is my wedding. Roman stopped beside Nora. And yet here you are outside gripping another woman while your bride smiles for photographs. The color drained from Preston's face. Nora touched Roman's sleeve, not to stop him, to remind him she was there. Roman looked at her. She shook her head once. He understood. Preston looked between them, and something bitter moved across his face. You have no idea what kind of man he is, Nora answered before Roman could. I know what kind of man you are. That is enough for tonight. Preston's mouth tightened. For a moment Nora thought he would say something cruel enough to finish what little respect remained. Instead he stepped back. Enjoy the rest of your evening. The words were for her. The warning was for Roman. He disappeared into the ballroom. Nora stood very still. The cold touched the damp places on her skin where Preston's fingers had been. Roman turned to her. Did he hurt you, no? Nora. No, she said again, softer. He startled me. Roman's eyes stayed on her arm. No one touches you to make you listen. The sentence was quiet, but it carried a violence that was not aimed at her. Something inside Nora loosened and ached. Roman. We're leaving. The reception is not over. It is for us. She looked through the glass, at the chandeliers, the flowers, the perfect tables. Preston re-entering the room with his smile back in place. Lila beside him touching his sleeve, unaware or pretending to be. Nora realized she did not want one more minute of it. Roman offered his hand. This time it was not part of the performance. Nora took it. They left through a side hall away from the main entrance, past staff carrying trays and a photographer checking his camera. No one stopped them. No one asked why. Roman moved like every door had already agreed to open. Outside, the car waited beneath the wet stone arch. The driver opened the door. Nora turned back once. The Waverly estate glowed behind her, all gold windows and old power. For 3 months that place had existed in her mind like a final exam she was doomed to fail. Now it was only a house. She got into the car. Roman followed. The door closed, sealing out the cold. For several minutes neither of them spoke. The car rolled down the long drive. The mansion receded behind black trees. Nora watched it through the rear window until the lights disappeared. Her chest felt hollow. Not empty, cleared. Roman's voice came quietly beside her. You did well. Nora looked forward. I thought I would feel more. What do you feel? She searched herself. Her feet hurt. Her ribs ached from holding herself so carefully. Her skin still remembered Roman's hand at her waist and Preston's fingers on her arm. But beneath all of that was something clean. Free, she said. Roman looked at her. She did not look away. His phone rang. The sound cut through the dark car like a blade drawn from a sheath. Roman glanced at the screen. Everything in his face changed. He answered in the same language she had heard before, his voice low at first, then colder. Nora watched his jaw tighten. Watched his eyes go flat. Watched the man who had danced with her disappear behind the one Chicago feared. The call ended. The silence afterward was worse. What happened? Nora asked. Roman slipped the phone into his pocket. Nothing you need to handle tonight. That is not an answer. No, he said, looking out at the dark road ahead. It is protection. Nora turned toward the window as Chicago waited in the distance, its lights blurred by rain, and for the first time that night the danger beside her felt larger than the pain behind her. Roman did not speak again for the rest of the drive. The city came back in pieces through the rain, streetlights, wet pavement, a blur of traffic on Lakeshore Drive. Nora watched Chicago rise ahead of them, bright and indifferent, while the silence in the back seat grew heavy enough to touch. She had heard him say it was protection, not an answer. Protection. The word should have comforted her. Instead, it made her feel as if someone had locked a door from the outside. Roman sat beside her with his face turned slightly toward the window. His reflection stared back at him from the dark glass, but Nora could see enough. The hard line of his jaw, the stillness in his shoulders, the way his right hand rested open against his knee relaxed only because he had trained it to look that way. He was angry. No, not angry. Ready. That frightened her more. When the car pulled beneath the private awning of his building, Roman got out first. The driver opened Nora's door, but Roman was already holding out his hand. She looked at it. For 1 second she considered refusing. Then she took it. His fingers closed around hers, warm and firm, but not possessive. Not like Preston on the terrace. Roman did not pull. He waited until she stepped out on her own. The lobby was empty except for 2 security men, both standing too straight. One of them looked at Roman and gave the smallest nod. Roman answered with silence. Nora noticed everything now. That was his fault. The elevator doors closed behind them. The car rose without a sound. Nora watched the numbers climb. What happened? Roman did not look at her. Not here. There is no one here. There are cameras everywhere. They're your cameras. Exactly. She turned toward him. Roman. His name came out softer than she intended. That made him look at her. For one breath, the man from the ballroom returned. The one who had held her at the waist. The one who had watched her face Preston and looked proud in a way he tried to hide. Then the elevator opened. He stepped out. Nora followed him into the penthouse where the quiet felt different from before. Less elegant, more watchful. Roman crossed to the bar, poured whiskey into 2 glasses, and handed one to her. I don't want that. Hold it anyway. Why? Because your hands are shaking. She looked down. They were. She took the glass. Roman loosened his cuffs and rolled his sleeves with sharp, efficient movements. The gesture should have looked casual. It did not. It looked like preparation. Nora set the glass on the coffee table without drinking. I am done being managed. Roman's eyes lifted. That was not management. What do you call it when you decide what I get to know necessary? To whom? To anyone who prefers you breathing. The words struck the air between them. Nora felt her anger rise steady and bright. You do not get to use my safety as a curtain. Roman turned fully toward her. Nora, no, I stood in that room tonight. I faced Vivian. I faced Preston. I did everything you trained me to do. And the second something becomes real, you send me back to the children's table. His expression went cold. This has nothing to do with your pride. Everything has to do with my pride when men keep deciding my life for me. His eyes darkened. You have no idea what you are talking about. Then tell me. Roman looked away first. It startled her. He did it so quickly, so deliberately, that she understood it was not weakness. It was restraint. There was movement tonight, he said, outside the estate. What kind of movement? Men watching the exits. A car that did not belong. A message sent to one of my people. Nora's stomach tightened. Because of you, yes. Because of me, Roman did not answer fast enough. That was answer enough. Nora stepped back. Someone saw us. Everyone saw us. Roman. He looked at her then, and there was no mask strong enough to hide the fury beneath his calm. The call in the car was about a missed shot. The room tilted. Nora gripped the back of the sofa. A shot not at you. That is not as comforting as you think. It was meant for me. Her throat went dry. At the wedding on the road outside the estate. They had a position near the south gate. We left early. The timing changed. She stared at him. The rain tapped against the windows behind her, soft and steady, like the world had not just cracked open. You were almost shot. Yes. And you did not tell me. You were coming down from one of the hardest nights of your life. That was not your decision to make. Roman's voice sharpened. It became my decision the moment your name entered my world. Nora went still. There it was. The truth beneath the concern. My world. Not theirs. Not shared. His. A place he ruled, and she was now a problem moving through it. So what happens now, she asked. Roman's jaw flexed. You leave in the morning." For a moment she thought she had misheard him. "What, you go home? Cole will assign discreet protection. You will return to work or not, that is your choice. But you will not stay here." Her chest tightened. "Because of the shot. Because this arrangement is over." The words landed with clean cruelty. Nora looked at him. The dress still clung to her body. The necklace he had called armor rested against her skin. Her hair was still pinned from the wedding, though several pieces had fallen loose around her face. She could still feel the echo of his hand in hers, and he was standing across from her trying to turn all of it into business. "The arrangement?" she repeated. "Yes, the one where I gave you 2 weeks of my life so you could teach me how not to be afraid. I taught you what you asked for." "No, you taught me too well." His eyes narrowed. "What does that mean?" "It means I can see when someone is lying because they are scared." Roman's face hardened. "I am not scared. You are terrified." The silence that followed was sharp enough to cut. Roman moved first, crossing the space between them with controlled force. "You need to be careful. So do you. I am not a man you fix with brave words." "I am not trying to fix you. Then stop looking at me like there is something here worth saving." Nora inhaled. The pain came late after the shock. "Is that what this is?" His gaze did not move. "What, you making yourself uglier so I will leave faster?" Roman's mouth tightened. "Nora, say it then." He said nothing. She stepped closer. "Look at me and say none of it was real. The ballroom, the balcony, the way you touched my hand in the car, the way you looked at me after I walked away from Vivian." Roman's eyes were flat now. Too flat. It was useful. The words hit harder than Preston's invitation. Nora felt them enter, felt them search for the old wound and press. Useful, convenient, comfortable, different knives, same hand shape. She reached behind her neck and unclasped the gold chain. Roman's gaze dropped to it. For the first time, something broke through his expression. Nora placed the necklace on the coffee table. "Then your armor worked," she said quietly. "I survived the wedding." She walked past him. He caught her wrist. Not hard, barely a touch. Still, both of them froze. Roman released her at once. "I'm sorry." The apology came low, immediate, real. That almost undid her. Almost. Nora turned back. "Preston made me feel unwanted. You made me feel seen and then punished me for believing it." Roman's face went white around the mouth. She did not wait for an answer. In the guest suite, the room looked untouched, as if no part of her had ever lived there. The bed was perfectly made. The dress boxes stood along the wall. Clothes Roman had sent hung in the closet. Shoes she had worn once lined the floor like evidence from someone else's life. Nora took off the emerald dress carefully. Not because it belonged to him, because for one night it had belonged to her. She changed into the jeans and sweater she had arrived in, then packed her bag with only what she had brought: her phone, her wallet, her grandmother's ring, the black coat with the missing button. She left the clothes, the shoes, the silk, the woman who needed them to feel powerful. When she opened the bedroom door, Evelyn stood in the hallway. Her face revealed nothing, but her eyes were softer than usual. "Mr. Blackwell has arranged a car for the morning." Nora adjusted the strap of her bag. "I am leaving now. It is nearly 2 in the morning." "I know. Miss Hayes." Nora paused. Evelyn looked down the hallway toward Roman's office, then back at her. "Men like him believe distance is mercy." Nora's throat tightened. "Is it no?" Evelyn said. "But they often do not learn that until someone refuses to thank them for it." Nora walked to the elevator. Roman did not come after her. That was the part that hurt worst. The lobby guard looked startled when she stepped out alone. He made a call, but Nora was already through the doors and into the cold. Chicago at 2 in the morning did not care who had broken her heart. The wind hit her face. Rain misted against her coat. A cab passed without stopping. She walked half a block before her legs started shaking, then stood under a street lamp and ordered a ride with numb fingers. Her apartment smelled like stale coffee and dust when she opened the door. For a moment, she stood in the dark and listened. No marble silence, no lake view, no Roman moving through another room with controlled steps, just the refrigerator humming and the radiator ticking. She dropped her bag by the couch. Then she sat on the floor because the couch felt too high and cried with her coat still on. She cried for Preston, but only a little. She cried for the version of herself who had accepted smallness because it felt safer than wanting. She cried for Roman, who had seen her clearly enough to hurt her precisely. Mostly she cried because part of her still wanted him to open the door. He did not. Morning came gray and ordinary. Nora woke on the couch with a stiff neck and swollen eyes. Her phone showed 7 missed calls from Tessa and 1 text that said, "I am 5 minutes from calling the police, a priest, and your landlord." Nora called her. Tessa answered with no greeting. "Are you alive? Yes. Are you with him? No." A pause. What happened? Nora looked toward the window where pale light pushed through cheap blinds. "I went to the wedding, and I survived it. That is not everything." "No." Tessa's voice softened. "Do you want me to come over?" "Yes," Nora said, then closed her eyes. But not yet. After hanging up, Nora showered and scrubbed the makeup from her face until her skin turned pink. She made coffee and forgot to drink it. She opened her laptop and stared at 2 weeks of work emails. The office wanted to know when she would return. A client needed updated exhibits. Her supervisor had marked 3 messages urgent. Nora read them all with a strange calm. Then she opened a blank document and typed her resignation. The first version was too polite. The second was too angry. The third simply said she was grateful for the experience and would not be returning. She stared at it for 20 minutes before sending. Her phone rang just as the email disappeared. Unknown number. Nora considered ignoring it. Then she answered. "Hello, Miss Hayes." A man's voice, calm, low. "Yes. My name is Cole Mercer. I work with Roman Blackwell." Her body went still. "Roman can call me himself. He asked me not to." "Of course he did." A faint pause. Cole continued. "I am calling because your safety may be affected by events connected to last night." Nora stood. "What events? I cannot discuss details over the phone." "Then this will be a short conversation. Miss Hayes." His tone changed. Not threatening. Urgent. "If anyone approaches you about Roman, the wedding, Senator Caldwell, or a man named Silas Voss, do not answer. Do not argue. Do not try to be clever. Call this number and get somewhere public." Nora's hand tightened around the phone. "Who is Silas Voss?" Another pause. "Someone who should not know your name." A cold line moved down her spine. "Does he?" "Yes." The apartment seemed too quiet now. Nora looked toward the window. A man stood across the street near the entrance of the corner market, smoking under the awning. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. She stepped away from the glass. "Cole, what happened last night? I told you what you need to know." "No. You told me what Roman allowed you to say." This time Cole exhaled. Roman was targeted. It failed because he left the estate earlier than expected. Nora closed her eyes. The south gate, the phone call, his face in the car. He pushed me away because of that. Cole did not answer. "Cole, he pushed you away because the people who want him dead now have reason to look at you." There it was. Not softened, not dressed up. Truth. Nora sat down slowly. "Is he safe?" The question escaped before pride could stop it. Cole's voice went quieter. "For now. For now is not an answer. It is the only honest one." The call ended with instructions she barely heard. "Keep doors locked. Stay away from the office. Do not talk to strangers. Report anything unusual." Nora stood in the middle of her small apartment, phone in hand, and felt the absurdity of it settle over her. Yesterday morning she'd been afraid of walking into a wedding. Now she was scanning the street for men who might know her name because she had stood beside Roman Blackwell. A knock sounded at the door. Nora stopped breathing. Then Tessa's voice came through. "If you are dead, I am going to be furious." Nora opened the door and almost collapsed into her friend's arms. Tessa took one look at her face and stepped inside. "What did he do?" Nora closed the door. "It's worse than that." She told Tessa everything, not all at once, not cleanly. The words came in fragments while Tessa paced the living room barefoot, furious and afraid. The wedding, Roman, Preston, the shot, Cole's call, Silas Voss. By the end, Tessa stood with both hands pressed to her mouth. "You are leaving Chicago." "No, Nora, no. A crime boss's enemy knows your name. I heard that part. Then why are you using your courtroom voice?" Nora looked at the resignation email still open on her laptop. "Because I am done letting men decide that protecting me means removing me." Tessa stared at her. You are not going back to him." Nora did not answer. Tessa pointed toward the window. "No, absolutely not. I support healing, I support revenge dresses, I support quitting toxic jobs. I do not support marching into a mafia penthouse because you want emotional clarity from a man whose employees say things like, 'Get somewhere public.'" Nora grabbed her coat. "I need the truth. You need therapy. I need both." Tessa caught her arm, gentle but firm. "Nora, listen to me. Wanting answers is not the same as being safe." Nora looked at her friend's hand on her sleeve. Tessa noticed and let go immediately. That was the difference. "I know," Nora said softly, "but if I let him push me back into ignorance now, then everything he taught me was just another cage." Tessa's eyes filled with worry. "And if getting the truth gets you killed," Nora swallowed, "then I need to be smarter than brave." The black car was not outside when Nora left. Either Roman had stopped watching her or had become better at hiding it. She took the train. It felt almost funny. The emerald dress had been replaced by jeans and a wool coat, the ballroom by a crowded train car smelling of wet coats and burnt coffee. No one knew she had danced with Roman Blackwell. No one knew a man named Silas Voss might know her face. A child in a red hat fell asleep against his mother's arm. An old man read the sports page. Life continued in public, ordinary and careless. Nora envied it. At Roman's building, the lobby guard stood when she entered. "Miss Hayes, I need to see Roman. I'm afraid Mr. Blackwell is unavailable. I didn't ask if he was available." The guard blinked. She stepped closer. "You can call him and tell him I'm here, or I can stand in the middle of this lobby and start saying names until everyone gets uncomfortable." The guard's jaw tightened. "What name's Silas Voss? Senator Caldwell, Southgate, missed shot." The elevator opened before the guard touched his earpiece. Roman stood inside. No suit jacket, black shirt, dark eyes. "Nora." The sound of her name almost broke her. She did not let it. "Funny, you are available." His gaze moved over her quickly, checking for harm. She saw it and hated that it warmed her. "Come upstairs." "No." Roman went still. "Excuse me, you do not get to summon me like a witness and dismiss me like evidence. We talk here or we do not talk." The lobby had gone very quiet. Roman looked at her for a long moment. Then he stepped out of the elevator. "All right, that was unexpected." Nora folded her arms because her hands wanted to shake. "Who is Silas Voss?" Roman's expression hardened. "Cole called you." "Yes. He had instructions. He followed the useful parts." Roman looked toward the guard. The man immediately found something fascinating behind the desk. Roman lowered his voice. "Silas Voss runs what is left of the old West Side cruise. Guns, pills, debt collections. He has been pushing into my territory for 6 months. And the Caldwells." His eyes sharpened. "You have been busy." "I am a paralegal. Following money and lies is most of the job." A flicker of something crossed Roman's face. Pride, maybe. It vanished. "Caldwell has ties to men who protected Voss years ago. The wedding put half the state's dirty secrets under one roof, and you used me to get inside. At first. The honesty landed differently now, and after Roman looked at her. After you became the only person in that room I cared about leaving alive." The words entered her chest before she could defend against them. She looked away. "That is not enough." "I know. No, I don't think you do. You cannot train me to stand up straight, then punish me when I stand up to you." His jaw tightened. "I was trying to keep you alive. You were trying to keep control." The words hit him. This time he did not deny them. Nora's voice softened, but not weakened. "I am afraid, Roman. I am angry. I am completely out of my depth, but I will not go back to being protected by silence." A long pause stretched between them. Then Roman said, "Come upstairs, not because I command it, because there are things you should know and I would rather say them where the walls belong to me." Nora studied him. Truth. She stepped into the elevator. This time he did not touch her. Upstairs, the penthouse looked the same, but Nora did not. That changed the room more than any furniture could have. A woman waited near the windows. She was tall, lean, with dark blonde hair cut at her jaw, and a face that did not waste expression. She wore black pants, boots, and a gray sweater, not glamorous, not soft. Her eyes moved over Nora with professional clarity. Roman said Sophia Kane. Sophia nodded. "Nora Hayes." You know me, I know enough to say you need better situational awareness and shoes you can run in. Nora glanced down at her boots. They are comfortable. They are decorative. I like her, Nora said. Roman did not smile. Sophia handled federal investigations before she started working with me. Nora looked at Sophia. You were FBI briefly. What happened? I became allergic to hypocrisy. Roman moved toward his office. Sophia will teach you what to do if someone approaches you. Nora stared at him. You hired someone to train me? I asked someone I trust to keep you from freezing at the wrong moment. Sophia spoke before Nora could answer. Do not make this romantic. You are not becoming dangerous today. You are becoming less easy. That Nora understood. For the next 6 hours, Sophia took her apart in a different way than Roman had. Roman had taught her how to enter rooms. Sophia taught her how to leave them alive. They worked in a private gym on the lower floor of the penthouse. No mirrors, padded floor, fluorescent lights. Nothing elegant. Sophia taught her to break a wrist grip. Again, again, again. Nora failed the first dozen times. You are pulling away, Sophia said. That seems logical. It is instinctive. Not logical. He is stronger. Use the thumb gap. Nora tried again. Sophia caught her easily. No. Again. This time Nora stepped and tore her wrist free. Sophia nodded. Better. Nora breathed hard. That would work sometimes. Against one grip, in 1 second. If you do not panic. That is not reassuring. Good. Reassurance gets people killed. They move to exits, elevators, stairwells, service doors, lobby lines of sight. How to notice the person who noticed you too long. How not to stare at danger because staring told danger it had been seen. Roman watched from near the door. Silent. Nora could feel him there without looking. At one point, Sophia handed Nora a plastic training knife. Nora stepped back. No. Sophia lowered it. Good. You are not ready for that. Roman pushed off the wall. Sophia, she needs truth, not theater. Nora looked at Roman. She's right. His mouth closed. Sophia's eyes moved between them. Well, that saves time. By the time the session ended, Nora's body ached in places the wedding had not reached. Her wrist was red, her knees hurt, her pride was bruised but differently, usefully. She found Roman on the balcony afterward. Of course. The city below was beginning to glow. The lake was dark beyond the glass. He stood with his hands on the railing, the same posture as before, but now Nora knew how much of him was locked behind it. She stepped beside him. I am not glass, I know. You act like you don't. I act like everything I touch becomes a target. Nora watched the lights across the water. That sounds lonely. Roman let out a breath that was almost a laugh. It is efficient. No, it is lonely. You just made loneliness wear a better suit. He turned his head. You make a habit of walking directly into dangerous places. I learned from you. That is not funny. I know. The quiet between them softened. Roman's voice lowered. I did not sleep after you left. Nora's fingers tightened on the railing. Neither did I. I wanted to come after you. Why didn't you? Because I thought letting you hate me might keep you safer. Nora looked at him, and now his eyes held hers. Now I know you are too stubborn to survive on hatred alone. The corner of her mouth moved despite herself. That may be the nicest thing you've said to me. It was not meant as a compliment. It still worked. For a moment he almost smiled. Then Cole entered the living room behind them. Roman saw his reflection in the glass and turned at once. Cole's face was grim. We have a problem. The softness vanished. Roman stepped inside. Nora followed. Cole glanced at her, then at Roman. Roman said, Speak. Voss grabbed Matteo outside Cicero. He is moving product through the Calumet warehouse tonight. Word is he wants you to come personally. Roman's expression went still. A trap. Yes. Who else knows? Only the inner crew. Nora watched the room change around the men. The air tightened. The penthouse became less homeless fortress, more command center. Roman looked at Sophia. Keep her here. Nora's head turned. Do not start. Roman faced her. This is not a conversation. You promised truth. And the truth is you are not coming near this. Sophia stepped in. He is right. Nora looked at her. Sophia's face was calm. You can hate it and still hear it. 6 hours of training does not make you useful in a gunfight. Nora's anger burned, but it did not blind her. That was new. She looked at Roman. I am not asking to come. His eyes searched hers. Good, but do not lie to me when you come back. Something moved in his face. When I come back, he said. Nora heard the correction. She also heard the promise beneath it. Roman left within 20 minutes. The penthouse filled with motion. Men arrived and disappeared. Cole checked weapons in silence. Sophia made calls near the window. Roman changed into black and looked less like a man than a decision no one could stop. Before he walked out, he came to Nora. Not close enough to touch. Nora. She wanted to say be careful. It sounded too small, so she said, come back with the truth. Roman's eyes held hers. I will. Then he was gone. For nearly an hour, Nora stayed where she had promised to stay. She sat in the living room with Sophia listening to the quiet after violence had left the building. Sophia watched the security monitors. Nora watched Sophia watch them. Then Cole's voice came through Sophia's earpiece. Nora could not hear the words, but she saw Sophia's face change. What Nora asked, Sophia raised a hand, listened, then swore under her breath. Nora stood. What happened? Sophia looked at her. Stay here. The old Nora might have obeyed because command had weight. The new Nora heard the space between the words. Something was wrong. Sophia moved toward the hall. Nora followed. Nora. What happened? Sophia turned. Roman's convoy lost contact near the river. The room went cold. Nora felt fear move through her fast and wild. Then Sophia said the one thing that made obedience impossible. We do not know if he is alive. Nora looked toward the elevator. Sophia stepped into her path. No. Nora's voice came out quiet. Move. You walk out that door, you become one more problem. Then tell me the truth. I just did. No. You told me the fear. Tell me the plan. Sophia stared at her. For a moment Nora thought she would physically stop her. Then Sophia said, there is a second team moving now. You are not on it. Nora's mind sharpened around the terror. Service elevator, garage, black SUV keys on the console near the security desk. Roman had trained her to notice rooms. Sophia had trained her to notice exits. Neither had trained her to sit still with the possibility of losing him. She waited until Sophia turned to answer another call. Then Nora moved. Not running. Running drew eyes. She walked quickly down the service hall, down the back stairs, through the staff corridor, and into the private garage. Her hands shook as she found a driver standing beside a black SUV. Miss Hayes. She lifted her chin. Take me to the Calumet warehouse. He hesitated. Mr. Blackwell said Roman is not here. The driver stared at her. Nora stepped closer. Drive. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then he opened the door. As the SUV pulled out into the wet Chicago night, Nora sat in the back seat with her hands open on her knees, forcing herself to breathe the way Sophia had taught her. Fear was allowed. Surrender was not. The city blurred past in streaks of white and red. Ahead near the river, smoke began to rise against the dark. Smoke rose over the Calumet River like a warning the city had tried to bury. Nora pressed one hand against the SUV window and watched the dark outline of the warehouse grow larger through the rain. The building sat near the water, half abandoned, half forgotten, with broken windows and rusted doors that groaned whenever the wind moved through them. Yellow light bled from a few cracks in the metal siding. Somewhere inside, men were shouting. The driver slowed near the edge of the lot. Miss Hayes, I can't take you closer. Nora looked at him. What is your name, Eli? Eli, if Roman is in there, I am not waiting out here while everyone else decides what I get to know. His hands tightened on the steering wheel. With respect, that is exactly what you should do. A gunshot cracked through the night. Nora flinched. Eli cursed under his breath. Another shot followed, then another. Nora's heart slammed against her ribs. The rational part of her heard Sophia's voice. You become one more problem. The terrified part of her saw Roman on the balcony alone against the city, saying he did not know how to love anything without preparing to lose it. Nora opened the door. Eli reached back. Miss Hayes. She stepped into the rain. It was colder near the river. The wind cut through her coat and drove water against her face. She moved toward the warehouse, keeping low beside a row of shipping containers. Her boots slipped in mud. Her breath came fast, but she forced it quieter. Watch exits. Watch hands. Do not freeze. The side door of the warehouse hung partly open. Nora slipped through and entered a narrow corridor that smelled of oil-wet concrete and rust. The noise inside came in waves, men yelling, metal scraping, a body hitting the floor somewhere beyond the wall. She should have stayed in the car. The truth struck hard and clear. This was not a ballroom. There were no polished insults here, no careful smiles, no one playing at cruelty with champagne in hand. This was Roman's world without the suit, without the marble, without the illusion that danger could be shaped into something beautiful. Nora kept moving anyway. At the end of the corridor, the warehouse opened into a wide space stacked with crates and old machinery. Puddles reflected strips of yellow light from overhead lamps. A black SUV sat near the center with both doors open. 2 men lay on the floor alive or dead, she could not tell. She saw Cole behind a concrete pillar gun raised speaking into an earpiece. Then she saw Roman. He stood near the far side of the warehouse, one shoulder dark with rain, and something worse. His face was calm, too calm as he aimed his weapon toward a metal staircase where a lean man in a gray coat backed toward an exit. Silas Voss. Nora knew it before anyone said his name. Some men looked dangerous because they were large. Silas looked dangerous because he seemed empty of anything that could slow him down. Roman advanced 1 step. Silas smiled. "You always did like dramatic entrances, Blackwell." Roman's voice was flat. "Put the gun down." Silas lifted his hand slightly, showing the pistol without surrendering it. "You first." The scene held for 1 breath. Then a hand clamped over Nora's mouth from behind. She tried to scream, but the sound died against a leather glove. An arm locked around her waist and dragged her back into the shadow of a stack of crates. Nora twisted, but the grip tightened. "Quiet," a man hissed near her ear. Panic exploded through her body, then training cut through it. Thumb gap, shift weight, do not pull straight back. She drove her heel down onto his foot. The man grunted. She turned her wrist hard and tore one hand free, but he caught her again and shoved something cold against her side. A gun. Her body went still. "Smart girl," he whispered. "Stay smart." He pushed her forward into the light. Roman saw her. Everything in him changed, not his posture, not his hands. To anyone else he may have looked the same, but Nora saw the terror break through his eyes before he crushed it back. The man behind her laughed, found something wandering where it shouldn't. Cole turned his gun, but Roman snapped one hand up. "Don't." Silas looked from Roman to Nora, and his smile widened. "Well," Silas said, "that answers the question." Nora felt the gun press harder into her ribs. Roman's gaze stayed on her face. "Nora." She tried to breathe. "I'm sorry." The words came out small. "Wrong." There was no time for sorry. Silas descended 2 steps, enjoying every second. The famous Roman Blackwell. The man who keeps no weaknesses. The man who built a city on fear. His eyes slid to Nora. "And here she is, walking right into my hands." Roman's gun remained aimed at Silas. His voice was quiet. "Let her go." Silas tilted his head. "You have a shot. Take it." The warehouse seemed to stop breathing. Nora understood then. Roman had a clean line to Silas, but not if the man behind her pulled the trigger. She felt Roman's choice before he made it. The rage in his eyes, the calculation, the surrender he hated. Slowly, Roman lowered his gun. Silas laughed softly. "There he is." In that instant, everything moved. Cole fired at the light above them. Glass shattered, sparks dropped. The warehouse plunged into broken darkness. The man behind Nora jerked, startled. Nora twisted with everything Sophia had drilled into her body. She turned toward the thumb, not away, shoved her elbow back, and dropped her weight. The gun went off. The sound tore through the air. Nora hit the floor hard. Roman reached her before she could think. He pulled her behind a crate, his body covering hers as shots ripped through wood and metal. "Are you hit?" His hands moved over her arms, her shoulders, her sides. "No," she gasped. "No, I don't think so." His face was inches from hers. For 1 second the warehouse disappeared. Then Cole shouted from across the room, "Voss is running." Roman looked toward the far exit. The old Roman, the one made of vengeance and control, was already moving behind his eyes. Nora grabbed his sleeve. He looked back. "Go," she almost said. But the words would have been a lie. His choice had already been made. Roman turned away from the exit and lifted Nora to her feet. We move now. Cole and 2 other men closed in. The man who had grabbed Nora was down near the crates, groaning, disarmed. Silas was gone, swallowed by the rain and smoke beyond the warehouse. Roman did not chase him. That was how Nora knew what her mistake had cost. They got her into a waiting SUV near the side entrance. Roman climbed in beside her, soaked with rain, face hard as stone. Cole slammed the door and got into the front. No one spoke for several minutes. Nora stared at her hands. Mud under her nails. A scrape across one palm. Her wrist red where the man had grabbed her. Roman looked out the window. The distance between them felt worse than anger. At last, Cole turned from the front seat. His face was pale with fury. "What the hell were you thinking?" Nora flinched, but she did not look away. Roman said, "Cole, no." Cole's voice cracked like a whip. "She needs to hear this. We had a plan, we had positions. Then she walks in and becomes leverage." Nora swallowed. "I know. You know now. Knowing after the bullet is not strategy." Roman's jaw tightened. "That's enough." "No, it isn't," Nora said. Roman turned to her. She made herself meet his eyes. "He's right." The rain hammered the roof. Nora's voice shook, but she kept going. "I thought being shut out meant I had to force my way in. I thought if I stayed behind I was letting you decide for me again, but I did not help. I made you choose." Roman's expression moved. "Pain, not anger. I was always going to choose you. That is the problem," she whispered. "Tonight that almost got someone killed." Cole looked away first. Roman said nothing. When they reached the safe house, Sophia was waiting in the doorway. She took one look at Nora and said, "You are alive." Nora nodded. Sophia stepped closer, then slapped her. Not hard enough to injure, hard enough to shock. Roman moved. Sophia pointed one finger at him. "Don't." Nora held her cheek, stunned. Sophia's eyes burned. That was for confusing panic with courage. Nora's throat tightened. "I deserved that. Yes." Sophia's voice softened by a fraction. "Now sit down so I can check if you are bleeding." The safe house was not like Roman's penthouse. It was plain and spare, with reinforced windows, old furniture, and the smell of coffee that had been burning too long. Sophia cleaned the scrape on Nora's palm. Cole paced in the kitchen. Roman stood near the door, silent and unreachable. Nora watched him over Sophia's shoulder. "He's hurt." Sophia did not look up. "His shoulder. Graze. He refused treatment until you were checked." Nora closed her eyes. "Of course he did." After Sophia finished, Nora found Roman outside on the back porch. The rain had softened to mist. He stood beneath the overhang shirt collar, open blood darkening the fabric near his shoulder. "Roman." He did not turn. "You should let Sophia look at that. It's nothing. Don't lie to me." That made him turn. The porch light carved shadows under his cheekbones. He looked exhausted in a way she had never seen before. "I watched a gun press into your side," he said. For 3 seconds, the entire world became that one place. Nora stepped closer. "I'm sorry." His laugh was quiet and broken. "I know. I needed the truth, but I chose the wrong way to demand it." Roman looked at her for a long moment. "I taught you to walk into rooms like you belonged in them. I forgot to teach you that some rooms are built to kill everyone inside. You tried." "No," he said. "I ordered. I pushed. I decided. Then I called it protection because that sounded better than fear." Nora's eyes burned. "What happens now?" Roman looked toward the river beyond the trees. "Silas is alive. He lost the shipment, 3 men and enough money to wound him. But he is alive. And the Caldwells—" His mouth tightened, still pretending their hands are clean. Nora thought of Preston in the ballroom warning her about Roman as if his family had not built ladders out of other people's backs. "I might be able to help." Roman's face hardened immediately. Nora. No guns, no warehouse, no heroic stupidity. She stepped closer. "Paper." He went still. "I worked family law, but money leaves patterns in every kind of case. Shell companies, property transfers, charitable donations, custody fights with hidden income. People think paperwork is boring, so they get careless there." Roman studied her. "You want to follow Silas through documents. I want to follow Caldwell." The name sat between them. Roman did not say no. That was enough. For the next 3 days, Nora slept little. Not at Roman's penthouse, not at her apartment. The safe house became a strange middle ground filled with coffee legal pads, laptops, and men who spoke quietly when she entered until they learned she was not leaving. Roman gave her access to files he had gathered for years: campaign donations, hotel records, old property deals, consulting contracts routed through clean hands and dirty companies. Nora read until her eyes burned. She found the first thread in a foundation donation tied to Vivian Caldwell's charity, the second in a warehouse lease signed by a company with no employees, the third in a campaign vendor payment that passed through two shell entities before landing near a Voss-controlled account. By dawn on the fourth day, the map covered an entire wall. Nora stood before it, barefoot, hair loose, coffee cold in her hand. Roman came in quietly. "You should sleep. You say that when you don't know what else to say. I say it because you are swaying." She pointed at the wall. Senator Caldwell did not just look away from Silas. He benefited from him. Money came in through consulting firms during 2 campaign cycles. Then city contracts went to companies tied to Voss. This is not rumor. This is paper. Roman moved beside her. His eyes followed the lines. Nora continued. "If this goes to the right federal contact, Caldwell becomes toxic by morning. Voss loses political cover. Banks freeze. Donors run. Everyone starts protecting themselves." Roman looked at her. "Who taught you to be terrifying?" She looked back. "You did." For once he smiled without hiding it. Sophia sent the evidence to a federal contact who owed her more truth than loyalty. Cole moved against Voss's accounts. Roman's people intercepted 2 shipments before they left the city. By the end of the week, Senator Caldwell's name appeared on every major news channel in Chicago. Not convicted. Not yet. But exposed. A man could survive guilt in politics. He could not survive becoming inconvenient. Preston called Nora once. She stared at his name on the screen until it stopped ringing. Then she blocked him. Silas Voss tried to leave Chicago 2 nights later. Roman found him at a private airfield outside Aurora. Nora was not there. That was the agreement. She waited at the safe house with Sophia sitting at the kitchen table, one hand around a mug of tea she did not drink. When Roman returned near dawn, his coat was wet with rain. There was no blood on him. Nora stood. "Is it done?" Roman's eyes held hers. Yes, she did not ask for details. He did not offer them. That was not ignorance. It was a boundary both of them could live with. Later, when the others had gone quiet and the sky began to pale, Roman found Nora in the living room. She was looking at the city through a window with bars hidden inside the frame. "I love you," he said. No warning, no performance, no strategy. Nora closed her eyes. The words did not feel like victory. They felt like weight. When she turned, he was standing several feet away, giving her room to reject him. "I love you," he said again, "and I do not know how to do that without wanting to lock every door between you and danger." Nora's voice came softly. "I love you too." His breath changed. "But that is not enough," she said. Roman nodded once. "I know. If we do this, I need truth. Not every detail of every dark thing, but no lies that decide my life for me. You will have it. I need choice. Yes, and you need to understand that I will not prove my strength by running into bullets again." Something in him loosened. "I need that very much." Nora crossed the room slowly. He did not move until she reached him. Then his hands came to her face with a tenderness that made her chest ache. "I thought loving you meant keeping you untouched by my world," he said. Nora covered his hand with hers. "No. Loving me means letting me stand beside you without making danger the only language between us." He bent his forehead to hers. For once, Roman Blackwell had no answer ready. That made the kiss honest. Spring came late to Chicago that year. By April, Nora had moved into a different apartment. Not Roman's penthouse, not her old place with the cracked window. A sunlit 1-bedroom near Lincoln Square with bookshelves she filled slowly and a kitchen table big enough for friends. Tessa approved after checking the locks twice and threatening Roman once. Nora left Dunleavy and Frost behind. She took a position at a non-profit legal center that helped women leaving violent marriages, coercive families, and homes where love had become a closed fist. On her first day, a young woman sat across from her with trembling hands and whispered, "I don't know where to start." Nora slid a box of tissues closer. "Start with what you need most. We'll build from there." Roman came to her office that evening. No guards in sight, though Nora knew better now than to believe that meant none existed. He stood in the doorway holding 2 coffees and wearing a dark coat that made half the interns forget what they were doing. Nora looked up from a case file. "Is this a social visit or a security concern?" Roman placed a coffee on her desk. "I am learning the difference. And this one is social." She leaned back. "You look uncomfortable. I am in a room full of people doing honest work. That must be frightening." "Deeply." She smiled. He watched it like it was something he had earned carefully. Months passed. The Caldwell scandal widened, then collapsed inward. Senator Caldwell resigned before anyone could force him to. Vivian vanished into private society where disgrace wore pearls and called itself privacy. Preston sent one letter. Nora did not open it. She burned it in Tessa's kitchen sink while Tessa raised a glass of cheap wine. Roman changed more slowly. He moved portions of his business into cleaner hands. He gave Cole more authority. He did not become harmless. Nora never asked for that lie, but he became more honest about what he could leave, what he could change, and what still lived in the shadows with his name on it. Some nights were difficult. Some arguments ended with doors closed too hard. Some truths took longer to say than others. But Roman stopped disappearing behind cruelty when he was afraid, and Nora stopped mistaking distance for dignity. 1 year after the wedding, Nora returned to the Waverly estate. Not as a guest at Preston Caldwell's marriage, not as a woman proving anything to a man who had failed to see her. The estate had been sold after the scandal and turned into an event venue for charitable foundations. That night, warm light filled the old ballroom again, but the room felt different. Less like a stage for power, more like a place waiting to be reclaimed. Nora stood near the side entrance in a deep blue dress reading over her speech one last time. Roman stood beside her adjusting one cufflink. "You are nervous. I am speaking in front of 200 people. You faced Vivian Caldwell with champagne and no backup. I had backup." He looked at her. She smiled. "I had me." His expression softened. "Yes, you did." The event coordinator called her name. Nora stepped onto the stage. For 1 second the room blurred. Chandeliers, flowers, faces turned toward her. A year ago this same house had held her like a wound. Now she stood beneath its lights with both feet steady. She found Roman at the back of the room. He was watching her, proud and quiet, still dangerous, but no longer the only source of her courage. Nora looked out at the audience. "My name is Nora Hayes," she began, then paused as a small smile touched her mouth. "Nora Blackwell, actually. But I spent too many years making myself easier to overlook, so tonight I am saying the whole thing clearly." A soft laugh moved through the room. Roman's eyes warmed. Nora continued. "I came to this estate once because I wanted someone else to regret losing me. I came back tonight because I finally understand that being chosen means very little if you abandon yourself to earn it." The room went quiet. Not empty quiet. Listening quiet. Nora breathed in. And for the first time in her life, she did not ask the floor, the room, or anyone in it for permission to stand there. After the speech, Roman found her beneath the stone archway outside. The rain had stopped. The night smelled like wet roses and lake wind. He took her hand and kissed her knuckles. "You own the room." Nora looked back through the windows at the lights, the people, the place where an old version of her had finally been laid to rest. Then she looked at him. "No," she said. "I belonged in it." Roman smiled. Not like a weapon, not like a warning. Like a man who had spent his life building walls and had finally learned the difference between a fortress and a home. Nora squeezed his hand. They walked down the marble steps together into the Chicago night, not performing for anyone, now not proving anything, not running from the dark. The city waited below them, dangerous and bright. This time, Nora did not feel small beside it. She felt seen. She felt chosen. And more than anything, she felt like she had finally chosen herself.